In 2024, the Oklahoma Sooners trotted out a roster boasting a 73% blue chip ratio. Historically, a roster consisting of at least 50% 4 and 5-star recruits is the absolute mathematical prerequisite for winning a national championship. By all traditional talent metrics, that 2024 team should have been an SEC juggernaut. On the field, the result was a catastrophic 6-7 overall record and a 2-6 mark in SEC play. The low point was a home game against unranked South Carolina where the offensive line allowed a staggering 8 sacks, plunging the team into a 32-3 halftime deficit. Unfortunately, I was also at this game. It was paper talent collapsing under the weight of physical reality. But fast forward to May 2026. Oklahoma now holds the undisputed number 1 ranked recruiting class for the 2027 cycle. They completely overhauled their roster using an NFL front office model, and they've instituted a metric that explains why losing nearly 30 players to the transfer portal was actually the best thing that could have happened to this program. Traditional blue chip ratio is dead, or at the very least, it's completely insufficient on its own. To survive the modern SEC, you cannot just aggregate high school talent, you have to master the dual track roster construction equilibrium. We're going to break down exactly how Brent Venables and general manager Jim Nagy systematically dismantled the broken Lincoln Riley roster model, and how they are leveraging elite scouting arbitrage to build a true championship contender. Stick around until the end because the numbers behind the net talent flux metric will completely change how you view transfer portal attrition. But before we go further, if you like Fact-Filled Sooner content, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. During the Lincoln Riley era, Oklahoma's recruiting classes consistently ranked in the top 15 nationally. Consequently, the program's blue chip ratio climbed from 60% in 2019 to 66% in 2021. But the data reveals a fatal structural flaw. The distribution of that talent was wildly disproportionate. The previous regime hoarded elite perimeter receivers and quarterbacks, but mathematically abandoned the line of scrimmage. Look at this data point. Between the 2021 and 2022 recruiting cycles, Oklahoma signed a total of 4 offensive linemen. During that exact same 2-year window, future SEC peers Georgia and Texas signed 9 offensive linemen each. You cannot overcome a 125% deficit in trench acquisitions and expect to survive SEC defensive lines. Furthermore, the internal culture had deteriorated, evidenced by a dismal 2.2 cumulative team GPA in Riley's final season. When Brent Venables arrived, he initiated a massive cultural reset, prioritizing the defensive front 7 and bringing the team GPA up to a historic 3.03 by spring 2024. The blue chip ratio jumped to 73% entering the 2024 season. But then came the 6-7 wake-up call in 2024. Having an elite blue chip ratio means nothing if you have true freshmen and transfer stopgaps getting physically dominated at the point of attack. Simultaneously, a massive paradigm shift occurred nationally. In the 2025-26 season, the Indiana Hoosiers won the national championship with an undefeated 16-0 record. The shocking part? Indiana had a blue chip ratio of just 8%. Instead of relying on 18-year-old 5-stars, head coach Curt Cignetti built a roster where 72.7% of the starters were acquired via the transfer portal. Their starting 22 possessed an average collegiate experience of 4.3 years. Indiana proved that veteran collegiate strength, processing speed, and schematic fluency will neutralize raw, undeveloped high school talent. This established the new standard, the dual track equilibrium. To win a title today, you need a top 15 high school recruiting class to build your developmental core, directly paired with a top 15 transfer portal class to provide immediate veteran stability. So how did Oklahoma adapt to this new mathematical reality? They professionalized. In February 2025, Oklahoma hired Jim Nagy, a guy with 18 years of NFL front office experience and 4 Lombardi trophies on his resume, to be the general manager for football. Nagy immediately dismantled the program's reliance on media recruiting rankings like 247 Sports and On3. Why? Because in the NIL era, External star ratings artificially inflate a player's market value. Instead, Nagy introduced an internal color-based NFL grading scale. If a recruit doesn't fit Venables' specific schematic parameters, Oklahoma will not overpay just to win a PR battle on signing day. This analytical ruthlessness led to massive hard right-hand turns in the 2026 cycle. The Sooners dropped highly touted quarterback commit Jaden O'Neal because internal metrics showed he lacked the optimal processing traits. They pivoted and secured Bentley out of Texas, a prospect Venables compared to Sam Bradford due to his cerebral processing speed and multi-sport background. But the most fascinating data comes from Oklahoma's mastery of the transfer portal heading into 2026. Following the 6-7 season in 2024, OU panicked and took a volume approach, signing 22 transfers in 2025. For 2026, the front office shifted to surgical acquisition based on a metric called net talent flux. The Sooners saw 28 players exit via the portal. To the casual observer, that looks like a mass exodus. But dive into the blue chip bust analysis. 69% of the outgoing 4 or 5-star players who left Oklahoma were downgraded to 3-star ratings in the transfer portal. The front office wasn't losing core pieces. They were systematically cleansing the roster of highly rated high school prospects who failed to hit internal valuation metrics. They replaced that theoretical potential with proven SEC mass. They brought in offensive tackle Amariun Harris, who stands 6'7", 313 pounds, and brings 24 games of SEC starting experience. They acquired 6'7", 269-pound tight end Hayden Hansen, who has 34 SEC games under his belt to fix the run-blocking geometry. They also hired 17-year NFL veteran Jason Witten as tight ends coach to ensure these portal additions get pro-level development. This dual-track strategy is culminating in the 2027 high school cycle. As of May 2026, Oklahoma holds the number 1 class in the nation. They're doing this through scouting arbitrage, finding elite assets before the market inflates their price. Look at running back Keldrid Ben. In December 25, Oklahoma's front office evaluated his junior film. 1,500 rushing yards, 10 yards per carry, and a 4.5 40-yard dash at 208 pounds. At the time, Ben was completely unranked by every major service and only held group of 5 offers. Oklahoma trusted their numbers, offered him, and secured his commitment. Months later, the recruiting industry woke up, skyrocketing him to 4-star status and ranking him as the number 5 running back in the nation. By the time Texas, USC, and Oregon offered him, Sooners already had him locked down. The historical benchmark for a national championship roster requires a blue chip ratio of at least 50% and typically a team talent composite score approaching 900 points. Under Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma had the BCR, but lacked the necessary distribution along the line of scrimmage to actually win a title. The Indiana Hoosiers prove that you can bypass high school rankings entirely if you aggregate enough veteran collegiate experience. But to build a sustained Tier 1 dynasty in the SEC, you have to execute both strategies perfectly. Look at Texas A&M under Mike Elko. They paired the number 1 high school class with the number 3 transfer portal class to insulate their young blue chips with veteran starters. The Venables Nagy model has officially bridged this exact gap. Oklahoma has secured an insurmountable lead in the 2027 national recruitings with a baseline BCR of 70%, heavily prioritizing 5-star offensive tackles like Cooper Hackett and Caden Penny. They've coupled that developmental pipeline with a highly strategic, offensive-heavy 2026 portal class designed strictly for SEC trench warfare. The 6-7 season in 2024 was painful, but the data indicates it was the necessary catalyst to drag Oklahoma's roster management into the modern professionalized era. The math says this program is absolutely trending toward championship dominance. Now I want to hear your take in the comments below. Based on the Keldrid Ben scouting arbitrage, do you think Oklahoma should completely ignore 247 Sports and On3 star ratings moving forward, or does the program still need the PR momentum of signing consensus 5-star guys to compete with programs like Alabama and Oregon? Thank you once again for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one. Boomer.